Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Here's a question for you. Where were you on the 13th of March 2023? Were you, perchance, standing in front of a town council in Glastonbury telling them about Agenda 21 and Agenda 30? If not, then you're not that woman. Remember that woman who stood up there and suddenly was catapulted to fame all over the internet? Sandi Adams was her name, and she is my guest a year later back on the show. Hello, Sandi.
Oh, hi, Richard. It's really lovely to be here. And I've only just realised it is a year, isn't it? We were going to do this show anyway, and you said what date was it? And I realised it's actually a year ago
A
tomorrow.
year to go. Now, the chance this probably will go out tomorrow, so it'll be a year and a day when people see it.
Ah, right.
But we are recording it a year, 365 years later. So clearly, having spoken to Glastonbury that time a year ago, you've solved the problem. There is no big agenda. Everyone's got on board. They've pushed back against the WEF and all that nonsense. I'm assuming.
If only in our wonderful world,
Oh,
in our dreams, that
yes.
would have happened. But sadly, as you know, life's not like that, is it?
No, not
And
quite.
and we've still got a lot of work to do. And I'm just wondering whether, we'll ever get a break, but not. I don't think so.
Not until we have solved it. But as a result of that meeting, you did tell me before we started to record that you then had a follow-up meeting and you met somebody interesting who was making a film.
Yes, it was the I after the town council thing that went viral, I decided that I had to follow it up with a what we called the Great Net Zero debate, but the council didn't really engage with the debate, so it was just an event really about net zero and a Q&A with some of the council members who were kind enough to arrive. And at one point this gentleman came up to me and said, my name's Mark Sharman, and he was there with his wife Patricia, and they said, we want to make a documentary about 2030. Would you be interested in helping us? So I said, yes, definitely. And then I thought, I wonder if it'll really happen. And he
Mm.
had already made an amazing documentary with Oracle Films called Safe and Effective, and that was all about the vaccine rollout and the harms as well. So I knew that film, and I thought he's the right person to be doing a documentary with. So I said yes. And now they're in the final stages of editing, and we have the premiere happening in London on April the 11th. So I'd like to give that a plug as well as catch up with whatever's been going on recently in the whole net zero nonsense.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I've got a graphic here of this event. Here it is. Come and find out the facts on Thursday, the 11th of April, at quarter to five till 9:30 p.m. at the Emmanuel Centre, which is quite a large venue. Tickets are obviously going very quickly, but this will be the premiere of that film as well as other guest speakers coming up and doing some
It's
talks.
it's an amazing event. It's what the wonderful Amanda and Michael Kenton have sort of organized it along
Right.
with Nicholas Martin. He's done a lot of work with 5G, and really I mean it's a very ambitious venue. I sort of swallowed really when I thought, oh my gosh, they've got the Emmanuel Centre. It's enormous, but hopefully there's enough interest to get people going. And there's speakers there. There's Jim Ferguson, uh, Andrew Bridgen. Jim Ferguson's all about farming. Andrew Bridgen will be there. Scott McCulloch, who is the amazing lawyer for Children's Health Defence, and he's been really putting out about the 5G being a weapon. Um, and yes, it's Cassie Langford, the lovely Cassie Langford, is going to be there, and she's got solutions about actions that people can take, to be powerful in their own right. So I'm not going to be speaking. I might speak about something else about, how AI is capturing our souls, and that we have to remain human. I might do a
Mm.
tiny little thing that might be like 10 minutes, but really, because the whole documentary is about Agenda 2030, I probably won't speak at all, but we'll see. But anyway, we'll all be there. And yeah, the film is called The New World, A Fool's Paradise. So Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's going to be all about the beginnings of Agenda 2030 and where it's taking us and how, a very deep dive. And there's lots of other people involved in the documentary too. So it's going to be, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And Amanda and Michael, really, they've just wanted to uh, sort of explore the corporate greed and tyranny and to understand who the enemy is. And
Mm.
that's exactly why we're having this event and showing the film there at the same time. Yeah.
Well, I'll put in the description the Eventbrite link so people can, if they're interested, can come along and get their tickets, etc., and come along and be at the premiere, which will be
Lovely.
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll.
And then presumably the film will be available online somewhere at some point after that event.
You
Once
know
it's
what? I don't know. Yes, they're going to obviously put it up on Rumble and the usual places. YouTube will probably take it down. Who knows?
yeah.
But they did with Safe and Effective. So it's difficult to know what they'll do with it. Really, I think there was talk of doing a road show, which might be quite fun.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll see. At
Well,
the
there we
cinema
are.
near you.
Absolutely. So, a lot has happened in those 365 days since you got up. I mean, you've been researching this. I mean, it's not like it was a flash in the pan that you got up one day and just was inspired. You've been researching this whole business, the Agenda 21 concept, for a long time. We've had you on the show a couple of times explaining what they intend to do and things of that ilk.
Yeah.
So, maybe you could tell us what has happened and what we should be thinking about in the
Well,
future.
I think, it's difficult. We've had what's really in the news at the moment is the farming thing and the land.
Mm,
And doing a deep dive into that, I've realized that the whole thing is that really the agenda is to, and it always was, from when I studied Agenda 21, the Earth Summit 1992, and you go into all of those documents that came after it, you realize that the idea is to own every resource on the planet, and they're making very big moves to do that, and we have to be aware of that.
mm,
And I've been looking at, obviously, when Klaus Schwab says you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, the question is, well, how will you get us to give up everything? How will you
mm,
do that? And you realize that, with the environmental sanctions that they're coming up with and the environmental thing, sort of compliance that you have to jump through hoops to abide by. This is how they think they will own everything, and particularly with our homes. I think I've spoken to you about this before with the EPCs. Where you can't sell your house or rent it out unless you comply to X, Y, and Z. About sustainability and about the environmental impact of your home, and you have to jump through hoops and retrofit your home at your own expense. Can you afford that? Is that a way they divest you of your property?
all on the myth, of course,
Yeah,
that global
all on
warming
the,
is the
the
big
the
killer.
total lie of anthropogenic global warming. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And this is what we have to keep in our sights: is that this is all predicated on a lie, and it is simply there to control and seize everything you have. And this is what we have to bear in mind. Now, obviously, following on from that, from the EPCs, then they brought in the ESGs, which are the environmental and social governance contracts that businesses have to apply, have to abide by. And so those are really, again, it's a scoring system. It's like a social credit system, and it's a way of scoring you on your how sustainable is your business. And so you have to jump through hoops, do lots of paperwork, and make sure that you are totally compliant in sustainability. And if you're not, you get sanctioned and your business is closed down or whatever. This is how they're working. Now, it was only the other day when I was really doing a deep dive into farming, and I knew that there was a plan to control the land with something called natural asset corporations or natural asset classes. And I did do a little film with Rachel Matthews from Colchester about this, and I think it's gone out on the People's Food and Farming Alliance website. But yeah, it's a way of, if you have land, then there's it's a way of financializing uh, the not growing of food. It's about financializing land. And I'll just give you a brief thing of how it's done. In 2023, a new financial instrument was created by the Securities and Exchange Commission at the request of the New York Stock Exchange. And this is called a natural asset company, sometimes called a natural asset class or a natural asset corporation. And these are based on environmental stewardship. So it's a global initiative. NACs hold the rights to ecological performance. So basically, these companies would be given a license to control lands, both public and private, and would be required not to conduct any unsustainable activities on that land. So it's a way of they seek profit from the land without actually using the land's productivity. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah, no,
they use
I
it as
get
a
that, but
financial instrument
I
because
can understand.
yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, I can understand them saying, oh, well, we want to make profit from the land, but presumably it's down to the people who own the land whether they want to make profit. They may not want to make profit. They may just want to be able to, break even if they're a charity
Yeah.
or something. They don't need to make a profit, they just break even. Why are they meddling into private people's
They
affairs?
meddle in everything because actually, they don't. They unfortunately, because most people who own land own the title deeds, don't they? And
Mm,
I'm just wondering, these companies are just literally. I think it's possibly bullying again. I mean, what happens if you tell them, look, you're not going to score my biodiversity net gain because an ESG is the same as a BNG with the land. Now, ESGs are for, sorry, it's terribly complicated. ESGs, environmental governance, social governance contracts, are to do with businesses. And it's the way they can tell you what to do in your business. In the same way they told us what to do during lockdown. And
yes,
people did it. So this again, it's a way of telling you that these natural asset corporations are telling you, right, if you are not producing a biodiversity net gain because they've created this whole financial system on this score of carbon, of your
yes,
carbon credit score. So they're bullying you into complying to let them know what you're doing on your farm for a start. Are
yes.
you being sustainable? Are you managing to come up to these ridiculous, sort of
But I mean, ultimately, I mean, this just comes down to people saying, "Sod off." We
I
don't
just
want any of
hope
this.
so. I hope people do. I mean, it's very difficult because
If you're losing your land, and your neighbour's losing your land, and the bloke across the way is losing his land, and the chap in the next county is also losing his land for the same reason, and it comes down to this pseudo bureaucratic crap about net zero and all this sort of, we want to know. Ultimately, surely these farmers must talk to one another and say, I'm not having this. You get off my land, stay off it.
well, I wish that was so. Unfortunately, a friend of mine went to the farming protest up in Wales, and most of the farmers that he spoke to were totally bought into climate change and knowing that they had to comply to net zero policies and climate change and accept the new system that they're bringing in. I can't
Yes.
remember what it's called now, but it's the new system of getting your grants. Your because it's all based on
On the fear
sustainable
of
development.
not having effectively a benefit of some description from the
Yeah.
government, is it?
Yeah. And are they going to give up their cows and their sheep and their dairy because of this? Because a lot of farmers are just getting out of farming. They've also been offered £100,000 to sell their land,
Hmm.
to get out of farming. And what we don't want is the land in the hands of corporate entities, because that is the new system, is to have everything owned by corporations.
Yes.
And what I think is happening, and what I feel is happening, and it's an awful thing, because there's a lot of really good people in communities who want to make sure that that there is food. And what's happened is that they're destroying the farmers' ability to farm, and a lot of the farmers are giving up, or or just saying, we'll go along with what you're doing. Um, and what we'll find is the food production will go down. And
Yes.
so what they're doing is they're forcing it into the hands of the community, because this is another system where if you've got a growing project, there are some companies that say, right, okay, we'll fund your growing project, and a lot of them are corporately funded. So you buy into that, a bit like the farmers bought into all the climate change nonsense and took the subsidies. So you buy into that, and who owns
Yeah.
at the end of the day?
It's the
It's the
same as a
corporate.
drug dealer, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it's
basically
horrible. Yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah,
So maybe we just need, if people live near a farm and they know this is going on, if we have enough people who are sort of open to this, we could just get them all going on the land and camping on it. Put up tents, put up little huts, and say, you're not selling this land to the farmers. You'll be protesting to the farmer. You're not doing this because this is not really your land. You're only a custodian of the land,
yeah,
and we are the community that should be dependent on your land,
yeah,
and you and your ability to grow fruit. You
yeah,
should not be listening to the government.
yeah.
They are interfering busybodies who can't organise a party in a paper bag. Look how they've messed up the country and killing people
Yes.
off with their medical intervention. I mean, we do need, if the farmers won't do it, then we need those people that will. We want Swampy back, but in the form of bivouac builders.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and suddenly you have a village on the farm, just suddenly springing up and going, well, we're going to grow our stuff on your land. And what, I mean, okay, you can get his big tractor out and start turfing them off, but the farmers have got to see sense, because actually what
yeah.
we would be doing, and I've suddenly clumped myself amongst that lot, what they would be doing is trying to convince the farmer to see sense and not see this drip heroin addiction from the government.
Well, you see, that's what they've done. They've given the farmers all these subsidies, and given them the ability, given them grant, or sort of subsidies to get big tractors and robotic. These
Yeah,
tractors work on their own. They sow all the seeds, and the guy's there with a little phone at the. The farmer's just got his phone. He's controlling it by the
it's
phone.
not farming.
And that's not farming, but they've been lured into this, and then they've been sold this whole, biodiversity stuff, and you've got to get rid of your sheep and your cows and your dairy, and you've got to grow herbal leys, and put photovoltaics on your land and wind farms, and that's how you will generate your income, through a sustainable energy financial instrument. That's basically what they're this is what is cooking at the moment. It's a
Yes,
way of getting rid of our economy and basing it on an energy-based economy, like they
yes.
tried to do in the 1930s. Even Elon Musk's grandfather, if you read my book, it's all in there. We'll talk about my book later, but yeah, Elon Musk's grandfather was actually, he said he had a social credit party in the 1930s, all based on an energy economy. It was part of the technocracy movement. And the fact is that all of this is coming to fruition again. And what they'll try and do is they've bought, and they've kind of got the farmers involved in all this, like a drug dealer. And now they're trying to encourage communities to do the same thing.
Mm.
And it's all backed up by corporate money. And this is the way we've got to just somehow get ourselves free, but it has to be done en masse. We need numbers,
Yes.
and that's
Yes,
that's the problem.
absolutely. I mean, okay, if you're not going to sort of do the camping idea on the farm, then you need thousands of people going to the farmer saying, "Grow stuff, I'll buy it. I'll invest in a pig, or half a pig,
Yeah,
or a leg of a pig."
yeah,
And if lots of people were doing that, and so the farmer goes, actually, do you know what? 1,000 people have come up to me and offered me £100 for a section of a pig. I don't know, whatever the money would be, and he said, I don't need these subsidies. If you could cut out the government, then the farmers could stand on their own 2 feet, and they wouldn't
yeah,
have to rely on it. And it's interesting because you mentioned back in the 1930s. In 1929, I've been reading some of A.G. Street's books,
yeah,
and he was writing back in those times very elegantly. And one of the things he says in the preference to Farmer's Glory, his first book, is farmers need to, I'm going to paraphrase this because I can't get it word for word, but he basically says farmers need to grow balls and not have any interference from the government. Too many farmers are relying on the government helping them out, but they should be relying on agriculture to help them out. And so it's 100 years ago he was saying all this, and we've slipped down this slippery slope. Farmers have got to now, and the community have got to get together.
Yeah, and you see, they're putting this out as, the government are putting this out as, oh, you've this is environmental stewardship, but actually, in the days gone by, we've all been stewards of the land. That the
Yes.
farmers were stewards of the land. They were the ones that actually knew the seasons and all that sort of thing. This is all coming from a technocratic background. This is all coming also from people in Parliament who've never farmed anything.
No,
And from politicians who believe that, in this whole net zero nonsense. And so,
and who believes them anyway? I mean, this is the weird that everybody moans at politicians. We all say, even if they don't know about net zero or the medical intervention, we all know that politicians lie, and they always have done, and yet we give them credence time after time. It baffles my brains.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I was just going to get onto your book, because you mentioned your book, and you're
not finished
right.
yet.
It's not finished yet, and I don't know how you find time to do it, because you're doing lots of research and getting out there telling people about stuff, and being in films that are going to be premiered and stuff. So tell us a little bit about the book and when it might be published.
Well, I'm writing it now. I've been writing it for a couple of months, and I've got a deadline, and I'm hoping I can reach that deadline of the 26th of July when I'm speaking at the Glastonbury Symposium, and I'm hoping to have it all done then. I hope so. That's what I'm aiming for. And it really is. It goes from literally the how this has been a very long-term agenda, and it started way before the 1930s evening, but I think I'm just going from the 1930s, and how it was the whole energy-based economy, and so really what they're trying to do now is crash our economy to put all this in place, because it failed in the 1930s. They didn't have the technology, but they had a jolly good try, and it all went away. And then it was revived in the 1970s with Zbigniew Brzezinski, and the new economic order. And then from there, it's escalated, and it's been like an absolute rocket since then, with the Earth Summit and all the different accelerations of the agenda since then, and where it's going and how we can deal with it. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a journey, but so many people don't understand Agenda 2030. So I just felt I've just got to get all this stuff that's in my head into the book, and just get it out there. And I'm going to be putting bits on my Substack, which I haven't really started properly yet. Yeah.
And so will it be like your friend Fergus Greenwood,
No.
Fergus Green, 800 and something pages, a big tome of a book that you open up and go, oh my God.
I mean, no.
I mean, that's an amazing book, because I read it and I couldn't put it down.
It's a wonderful book, and he's done a fabulous job, and he's a dear friend, and I love him to bits, and he's done it very wonderfully, and it is a big book. I mean, it's something that you will always have on your bookcase, but I wanted to get something that is easier to read, that because people don't have time these days.
Yes.
Something that's easier to read and that is in a language, not that Fergus's isn't, but in a language that people, because it's very easy to read his book, but in a language, because it's a very complex subject. So I'm doing it almost like a journey through time.
Yes.
And how things and how it all relates, and how everything is all interconnected with this agenda. So it brings into all the elements that we're seeing now, all the craziness that's going on is actually all linked to Agenda 2030, and how it's linked, and how they are using every single infiltration of our lives and our infrastructure to gain power over us. And how do and also it's got a spiritual slant to it really as well. How we overcome that kind of tyranny, and that
So are you going to call it "That Woman Says They're Coming to Get Us, but we'll give them a punch on the nose"?
Not quite.
Not quite. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, that sounds great. And obviously, when you do it, do let me know, and we'll publicise it
Oh, that would be
on the
lovely.
show,
That
which
would
will
be
be fantastic.
fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
So, is there any other areas that we should be thinking about as a general public? Thinking, oh my God, the end is nigh. These people have got everything over us. The money is dissolving, and the food is disappearing. They've poisoned the waters. They've done all these things. Is there any gleams of hope
I
out
think
there?
there is. I mean, I think the lovely Andrew Bridgen's doing lots of good work. And there's little glimmers of hope all over the place where certain countries are saying we're not having this. I think Sweden's thrown out Agenda 2030. There's lots of pockets, and
Mm,
those pockets just need to get bigger. Because and the UK was so asleep compared with some other countries. So I think there's an awful lot of wonderful people that have woken up, but people like the farmers, literally going to Rishi Sunak saying, "Help us." Why go to someone like Rishi Sunak to
yes.
help you? He's not going to help you. He's just a political animal, and he'll just say, "Oh, well, don't vote Labour. We'll help you. We'll give you
Yes.
more money for some more." Big tractors or whatever it is, and he's in it up to his eyes. So that saddens me that there's a big, wonderful protest. And what does he do? What do they do? They go to Rishi Sunak. They have to understand what Agenda 2030 is and how it will destroy farming. And that's the idea. And I hate to say this, they do want us hungry, cold, and poor. And
Mm,
we have to fight back against that because at the end of the day, I feel it's a bit like, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz when Toto pulls the curtain across, and you've got
yes.
that silly little man, orchestrating everything, and it's all based on fear. It's all based on fear because we are fearful of being arrested or going against the law. What are
Mm,
the laws?
mm.
Most of these, particularly in COVID, it was all guidance and if you said no, they couldn't really do much about it. They'd try, but they couldn't do much about it. Yeah.
So do we need a delegation going to visit the farmers with to sit these farmers down and actually say, look, I know you don't want to see this. I know you're in with good old Rishi and his millions, but just have a look at this, and we've come out of our way and have a listen. And they may go, oh, where? But I'm this, and you can't tell me, and I've got a shotgun over there, and if you don't get out, we've got to almost individually, one by one, convince them, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we have, and that's a big job because farmers won't listen to anyone that isn't a farmer. So it's about getting a few farmers and switching them on and getting those
Mm.
farmers to talk to farmers. Because I've tried to talk to farmers and they say, "Well, what do you know about farming?" You know what they're like. They're a bit,
No, but what you can
yeah,
say is
they're
at least
right.
I know that if you don't grow food, you're not farming.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
Yeah,
need to know. I don't need to
yeah.
know
This is
how
true.
big the kernel of a piece of wheat is,
Yeah,
or when's the best time to harvest your radishes. But I do know if you're not actually growing anything, you've got nothing to eat, and
yeah.
you can have as many wind farms and as much bio this, that, and the other. But if you ain't growing anything, no one's going to come along and buy it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. And I'm hoping that the documentary might wake a few up because I put a bit about farming in that
Mm.
today, just giving it to Mark. But I don't know whether because I haven't seen it yet, I don't know. But I think really the message about 2030 has to come out because I'm amazed, I live in a tourist town and I talk to people and so many people come to this town and you they say, well, what do you do? And I say, well, I talk about Agenda
I'm
2030.
saving the world, love.
And they
I'm
don't know.
saving the world.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah.
No, but you can't say that. But he just, they say, well, what is that? And I think
Yeah.
there's so many people that don't know.
No, no.
Yeah,
Well,
it's going to, destroy our economy if
mm,
it goes on. The whole thing about net zero is it destroys business, it destroys economies, it destroys farming, it destroys everything. And that's by design. That's what they want. They
yes.
want us to not have anything. Yeah.
So the problem I have now with this channel is that I'll talk to wonderful people like you who are incredibly knowledgeable, done your research and all that. But the same people watching it kind of know this. They might just be topping up their knowledge.
Yeah.
They're not the people who are going, oh my God, you are joking. Really? That's outrageous. I'm going to go and punch him on the face.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. We're still just talking to each other about the same thing, but we've kind of got to get some form of army that goes and pulls the rug from under their feet. Otherwise, we'll still be talking about it without any food. We'll just be a pair of skeletons sitting here going, this is my last meal. Agenda 21 has got to... Oh, just a minute.
Yeah.
That'll, it's like, well, we've got to actually do something.
Yeah, it's the thing is that we're all in little silos of information. We've that, and that's by design as well. I mean, this is how they shadow ban you, so that the information is all in separate silos. So nobody, sort of there's people I know who are on Facebook that their information would never meet mine. It doesn't matter how much, and the same with Twitter and everything. The whole thing is it's down to get it penetrating the mainstream media. And will we
But where are all the millionaires who are also affected and worried by it? There must be some multi-millionaires who could afford to have big posters shoved up everywhere. Even if they were fly posters and brought down. Where are the people who've got enough money to put adverts in the newspapers to actually get things out to the public so it looks legitimate?
Yeah.
I mean, there must be investors.
I mean, if there's any millionaires watching, and I doubt if there is, because we're in a silo of millionaires wouldn't watch, would they? Let's hope. Maybe there's a millionaire watching.
Well, I imagine if they were, they would have done something. I mean, they've all got sons and daughters who may well be affected by the medical intervention. They may want to get their own back and be able to see them in 5-10 years' time and not be visiting gravesides.
There is that. I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, what's happened to humanity over the last 4 years now? I can't remember. Is unbelievable. And in some ways it's woken, because it was an acceleration. That whole thing was an acceleration of 2030. And I know that because of all the documents that went before Event 201 and the Strategic Framework Partnership document at the UN. All of that was to accelerate Agenda 2030. And all the infrastructure went in while we were sleeping for all the ULEZ and everything. I mean, horrendous. So yes, we've been through a lot of trauma, and there must be someone that yeah, you're right, there must be some millionaires there.
I mean, we're all happy to work for nothing and save humanity, but there must be some others who've got a little bit of financial thing. Listen, we're going to have to call this again because we've got to go and do something else on a promo thing for something else. But just to remind everybody, here we go, Thursday the 11th of April, which is slowly creeping up. This year is going very fast. At the Emmanuel Centre from 4:45 till 9:30. A great day out by the sounds of it. A lovely film to watch. It's a bromance, I understand. It's Alice in what? No, it's not any of that. It's something very serious. Go and watch it. Early bird tickets. There we are till the 11th of March, which actually has passed, but don't worry about that. Book them. Go and see it, and you'll see Sandi Adams on the big screen, ladies and gentlemen, on the big screen, which will be very exciting. Sandi, it's been a joy to talk to you.
Thanks so much, and it's been lovely to talk to you again, Richard. Bless you. Thank you.
And we'll get you back on the show when your book is ready.
Okay, thank you.
And it would be lovely to see that. Good luck with the writing of that and everything else that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and you.
Thank you very much. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to keep this one short today, but we've both got things that we've got to go and do. In the meantime, go and visit a farmer and tell him exactly what he should be doing, growing food for the community and getting away from the government, which is something actually we all need to do, is turn our backs on this wretched government and the way they govern us. The more people that do that, the chances are we can save humanity. Very easy. There we are. That's your homework. Thank you very much. From Sandi and I, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more monologues and wonderful guests and occasional farm visits as well. Till next time, bye-bye.